Squid Game Season 2's finally out after a few years of waiting, and boy is it good. Fans are already creaming for Season 3 after that crazy cliffhanger ending we got, and before we get to see what happens sometime in 2025, I think there's a lot to unpack heading into the next chapter. I think there's a bunch of people who were opposed to there even being multiple seasons, because Season 1 did work as kind of a standalone story, and the fear going into it was that it'd just be the same shit rehashed again, but that's definitely not what happened. Season 2 was great, and it was different enough to work just as well. There are definitely aspects of it that we saw already in Season 1 and things that repeat, but they're done in a way where it doesn't feel soulless. However, some of these things I think weren't quite different enough that seeing them for a third time wouldn't be really fucking boring and not very creative. It seems the final season will be a direct continuation, so instead of seeing yet another whole new cast, there are enough characters left alive that we'll get to see their storylines conclude from where we're left off. It's a really great place to leave it in my opinion, where there are honestly a million ways that it could go and so much to account for. And I think that makes these predictions a lot more fun. So, let's get into it. So at the end of the season, we got a lot of division amongst the remaining players. This season was heavy on themes like the ethics of having players participate quote-unquote willingly in the games, where even when they were always allowed to vote, half of them still chose to keep playing. At the end, we've got 3 distinct player factions: those who want to keep the games going, or the O's, those who want to leave but won't risk their lives to escape, or the X's, and Jihan's rebels, who seek to destroy the whole organization. Most of the rebels end up dead, and Daiho completely gives up after a nervous breakdown. The O gang were pretty much sidelined for the big climax, but even they're left with a question mark as to how their alignments are going to change when the organization likely cracks down on the players harder than ever, which many players will definitely blame Jihan for. Now, I definitely think they will continue the games almost until the last episode. It's just one of those big staples of the show, and we can expect to see some new ones, but it might be difficult to pull this off again without it feeling too repetitive. However, one theme of Season 2 that Season 3 will definitely expand on is the humanization of the guards. It was really interesting to see this get explored through one of the main characters being a guard. And one idea I think that would perfectly build upon all these themes of morality while keeping the game's aspect interesting is if we saw some of the players fighting back by pulling an Yuno reverse card and forcing the guards to play their own games. It'd be a cool parallel if they were really sadistically enjoying it without realizing that the VIPs do the same thing. And, it would be a great way to add complexity by exploring more of the guards' humanity and forcing Jihan to see the guards as victims, just like him, and not just enemies. As for which children's games the new games will be based on, well, I have no idea. The one we got a teaser for, with the 2 dolls, it's probably something traffic or railroad related. We'll see. Now, Daiho's whole deal this season was that he was an ex-Marine, and this was kind of a flex for him. He said he grew up with 4 sisters, and he was made to enlist by his father in order to prove his masculinity, so he did. However, after Daiho takes up arms to fight back against the guards, he ends up completely freezing and freaking out before hiding in a corner while his allies literally die due to his inaction, which obviously goes against the idea of absolute bravery that he likes to present. Now, you could say this is just human nature, or you could say this is PTSD. Yes, those are good points, but I think there are a number of hints pointing to Daiho being a complete fucking fraud and a liar. For instance, when one of the O people infers that he's not a true Marine, Daiho loses his as if this was a sore topic. I think Daiho was probably discharged from the Marines shortly after getting the tattoo, and this is a source of great shame for him. Due to his father's abusive teachings, being sent home must have caused him a lot of embarrassment. Therefore, he pretends to be fearless, but when shit gets real, he breaks. Maybe in Season 3, Daiho will learn to accept himself and eventually conquer his fears. I think his character arc might end with him sacrificing himself to let the others escape, and he'll be redeemed. The frontman was definitely one of the highlights of the season. I mean, what a great villain. While Oil Nam, also known as Joe Biden, became a player, because he was dying and looking for some excitement in his last days, the frontman joins up simply to prove Jihan wrong. He's a really petty guy claiming a moral high ground by actually deadass risking his own life in the games and letting the players themselves vote for the games to continue. Now, there's no way this won't culminate in anything less than a fight to the death, where both Jihan and the frontman will try and prove that their ideology is the right one. Jihan will definitely win, but I don't think he's taking down the rest of the organization without help. One of the early subversions of expectations this season was when almost 2 episodes were spent on Jihan recruiting a team to go with him to the island, and then we found out the whole time it was a dead end. With no help, Jihan's only choice was making the other players into his army, but this failed fucking miserably. I think Season 3 is the time for these guys to finally find the organization and absolutely fuck their shit up, Crip style. But I also don't think it'll just be as simple as killing the guards. In order to really win, the victory has to be a corny-ass ideological one as much as a physical one. Maybe the frontman's final moment will be watching the guards he thinks are his pawns, turning on him and the VIPs, thus proving that Jihan is ultimately in the right. I expect whatever this girl's name is to play a big part in convincing the other guards to side with the players because they're definitely building up to something with her. I think the final obstacle will be the VIPs. Regardless of the prior themes of redemption and mercy, I don't see these guys being spared, and they honestly gotta go before someone brings out the baby oil. After the big fight, it's safe to say the show will end with the games ending for good as if they never existed. It'll be clear that the system behind everything isn't magically fixed just like that, but it's nonetheless a step in the right direction. Jihan will probably make it to the end, so he can be reunited with his daughter. I don't see both the old woman and her son surviving, and these two need to die, but otherwise anything could happen. I doubt the frontman is getting a redemption arc because he's so far gone, but it's always possible his brother manages to redeem him. The last scene will either be Jihan walking off with his daughter and finally being happy, or we'll get some cheeky, ominous hint that the games might still return in the future if society doesn't fix its problems. Right, that's all of my predictions for Squid Game Season 3. Subscribe if you know what's good for you, leave a like and comment down below if I'm right or if I'm retarded, or if you have any inferior predictions of your own. As always, remember to test for fentanyl, and I'll see you when I feel like it.